And the accents that went into this episode in particular offended my people. So... Captain's Pod, Stardate 1272022.6. Hello and welcome aboard the Starship Enterprise. Thank you for joining us as we take a brief shore leave from the world of CinemaSins to explore the universe of Star Trek. I am your Captain Ian Whittington, and with me, as always, is the assimilating ambassador, Deneé Hugh. Hello.
I will turn you into Borg.
That's racist. And all the Borgs are Russian.
Oh, no. I'm just playing around with my accents. That's all.
Okay.
It is something that's difficult for me because I like mimicking sounds and accents. And then I'm like, oh, there was one particular day that I was working on like a lisp. And I was just talking with a lisp without thinking about how offensive that is.
Appropriating someone else's...
right, because I wasn't doing that. I'm just experimenting with like, oh, that's an interesting sound that if I say the word this way.
Yeah.
So, but it's hard because people don't know your intentions always.
It's
so
true.
Thanks for reminding me that I'm a terrible person on accident.
Oh, hey, it's so easy. It comes up regularly, like all the time.
Yeah.
Speaking
it's hard to work with me.
It is. But we do it anyway. So many of us choose to do it. It's amazing. Speaking of horrible people, the horrible people at Paramount have given us a end date for Picard. So we will definitely be getting 3 seasons of Picard, and then it is going to completely finish. Now that we're kind of getting towards the back end of season 1, how does that make you feel about knowing this is a finite arc and there are... I think it's another 10 episodes, so there'll be 20 episodes once we finish season 1.
I think it's expected, right? Like, the show is called Picard. It's not called Rios.
Oh, it should be. I want it to be.
But if it was Rios, then it's like, oh, we have more we can do here. But this is a Picard show, and you know, our beloved Sir Patrick Stewart can't keep going forever.
He's 81.
And honestly, when things have an end, like when shows like this have an end, I feel a little bit better about it because I like that they have a plan. Or that they're going to either tie things up or try to put the content where they want it to be on the shelf. So, you know, there's several ways to end things. You can put a bow on it where you tell the audience exactly what happens, and then they kind of, that's what happens. And then sometimes they leave the open-ended story where we get to kind of create our own ending. So I will be curious to see what they do with everyone's story. But I feel like because this is the show Picard, it will come to an end. I don't know if it's going to be an end of him walking off into the sunset of a planet somewhere or in a spaceship somewhere. Like, are we going to see sort of are we going to see a funeral? Are they going to actually are they going to put the captain to rest?
Perhaps.
You know, like, so it's kind of, are they going to give us exactly what happens, or are they going to let the audience sort of choose our own ending for Picard based on what we feel? And that'll be something interesting to see. And it sucks for a lot of reasons because Picard, the character, is something that, you know, I love, but I do get to kind of rest a little bit knowing that there's an end to it. And it's not just going to be something that they go back and mine for over and over and over again, like without a purpose. I would like for some content that I really care about to be very purposeful.
It really sounds like it will be as well. It sounds like they have a plan for the next 2 seasons, and it will be one overarching story. And I think because they know it's the end, they'll put a nice little bow in it, and he'll either end up on Chateau Picard, or maybe he will have a peaceful passing. I don't think it's going to be a big dramatic self-sacrifice thing like Nemesis was with Data, when he literally like jumps into an engine to save Picard. I think they'll give Picard a peaceful ending and wrap up of some description, but it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
In a morbid way, I feel kind of strange saying this, but in a morbid way, I would think that they would have already filmed some stuff with Sir Patrick Stewart.
Oh, it's nearly done. Yeah, so they've nearly finished filming both seasons. Because
they have to have probably started with the end in mind too, in a way, because since he is elderly, if he were to pass, they probably want to have some specific footage ready to go. So
absolutely.
So yeah, I think it kind of gives me, I don't know, it's sad, but it's sad for the right reasons.
I'm glad it's happened, to be honest. Like, I never expected to get a Picard TV show. Like that was
right.
If you'd have even said that 5 years ago, that would have been a ridiculous thing, because that was before Star Trek had come back to TV at all.
And they're doing it during a pandemic too. So
it's insane. It's insane what they're doing.
We're like blessed of the creator gods that we get to watch something like this.
It's good stuff. Speaking of watching good stuff, this week we will be watching episode 8 of Star Trek Picard, which is Broken Pieces. Now, that doesn't give you a lot to go on other than, are we going to perhaps find out some stuff? Broken Pieces has a lot of weight to it, doesn't it?
Broken Pieces is like, it's multiple meanings in my mind. Immediately I think about the intro to this show, which has like the breaking pieces of like Picard, and they all kind of come back together. It makes me think about Soji's broken pieces of her body that she saw in her memory. And we know that they're trying to go to like homeworld. So I'm guessing we're going to be getting to Soji's homeworld in this one and seeing broken pieces of androids.
And everyone to some extent is broken. Like Rios has got a history that we're not being told about with his dead captain. Raffi is 100% broken pieces. So yeah, it's when I remember when I saw this episode title, I was like, oh man, let's get ready for some deep shit. But yeah, interesting prediction. Cool. Well, with that, we'll see you guys for a full debrief in 10 Forward after we have watched episode 8 of Star Trek Picard. Computer, 2 to beam to 10 Forward. Welcome to 10 Forward, the part of the show where we grab a drink from the replicator and share our immediate thoughts and feelings on the episode we just watched. Ambassador, what is your drink of choice?
I am so predictable.
Is it a coffee again? Not a glass of burgundy?
No, I didn't get a glass of burgundy, although watching this episode made me want to have a glass of burgundy a couple of times.
Yeah.
Water and a cinnamon girl latte again for me.
Oh, nice. Very nice. I am sipping a cup of tea.
What?
Not very exciting.
An English cup of tea?
Oh, cool, blimey, Gov. And the accents that went into this episode in particular offended my people. So, last episode, we left Picard and Soji were leaving Nepenthe after a brief and pointless respite with the Troys, the Riker Troys.
Yeah.
When devastating truth behind the Mars attacks are revealed, Picard realizes just how far many will go to preserve their secrets. As Narissa directs her guards to capture the XBs and Elnor, a familiar face returns to take over the cube, baby. 7 of 9! So,
yeah.
Overall impressions of the episode.
Overall impressions of the episode.
Yes.
Okay. Because I know we're going to go through the episode
we'll go
today.
Through some bits.
The scenes, the big scenes. So I'll save like my specific thoughts for that.
Yeah.
Overall, I loved it.
Yay! Woo!
Yeah. Every week, I think there's only been maybe 1 or 2 episodes that I was like, and then we're really early on when it was incredibly deeply expositional.
Before we even knew the world we were playing in, like they were describing so much and giving so much information.
Yeah. And I like the depth that they've been weaving. I think it's impressive to a certain degree, but it's not that I didn't enjoy them. It's just like, ooh, that was hard to chew more than it was like, wow, what a trash fire.
It's like getting all of the rules of poker in 5 minutes and then expecting to play poker. I was like, well, I don't know what any of these words mean.
First episode explaining poker, second episode explaining how to sit the table, third episode explaining the how to interact with fellow players, know, and then you finally get to play, and then you're really grateful for the first, second, and third episode because like all of these names are familiar to me now. I've heard them enough, and obviously because they're doing so much world building, it's nice to hear those words a lot, as you know, because some people when they watch don't remember basic names from episode to episode.
This is why I'm here as your guide.
But yeah, it seems like we're kicking off. We're heading towards some stuff. The exposition dumps now are like, there it is.
That makes sense.
In this particular one, learning really strongly some of the lore of the Romulans, the Zotvash, and why they're doing what they're doing, and like this interesting ritual stuff. So
It's such a relief to actually get some answers. So overall, this episode is about kind of answering the big questions so that the two finales, which are basically a feature-length episode, can concentrate on resolution and some fun stuff without leaving a lot of questions hanging in the air. So
that makes
sense.
Sense.
That might be a good way to attack it, actually. So we'll start with the admonition. Was that a satisfying kind of resolution to that? So the idea is that the Zhat Vash were created after the Tal Shiar, the secret police of the Romulans, found a warning from an ancient alien civilization that said, hey, if you keep building robots and AI, eventually they will evolve to a point where they will destroy the entire universe and just self-replicate. Was it satisfying for you?
Yes, it's satisfying to me. It was a little bit like, so we're right at the very top of the episode, the beginning, and it's just another, like, a storehouse of preserved memories that showed the grim fate of the civilization that perished here 14 years ago. A mighty race had left behind the object, warning of the horror and annihilation of the skies. It's just like, okay,
oh, wow, this is it.
So it wasn't, oh, who are these interesting people dressed in black? It's like, oh, shit. Like, an entire book is just being read to us right now.
That is how we start off every episode of Picard, apparently, is just
14 years ago.
Really important thing that happened 14 years ago.
Well, and this episode actually started even with one of the most action-packed previously on sections as well, because it hit on every single person to a certain degree. And so it wasn't like a slower pace previously on, it was a packed previously on. So to go to that into this really heavy understanding of what this did, and I think the reason I think it's satisfactory is it shows why this really passionate group that wants to annihilate synthetic life, like why they're so passionate about it, why they believe it so strongly. It's not just like lore passed down from one person to the other. They're doing this ritual that shows them things and messes with their mind in such a way that their passion, their drive or whatever is like madness. Yeah. So that's why another reason why I find it satisfactory is because to me, it's like a believable possibility that there's this ancient race that came up with something so powerful that they could store memories as a warning. It's a really interesting concept. I don't mind it. I do think that this episode should have had a suicide warning though, because suicide comes up so much in this episode. I really feel like I don't know. It's prevalent through the entire thing. There's the people at the beginning commit suicide. Yeah. They commit suicide by shooting themselves through the mouth, bashing themselves in the head.
Yeah.
What's the girl? Agnes. She talks about being comforted by thoughts of suicide. Ugh. The captain that they talk about committed suicide.
Yeah.
It's really heavy in this one. And I really hope when it aired or however it aired that there was something for the audience to prepare themselves for the depth of chaos of this one. Because it's really, really heavy.
Yeah, not in the UK there wasn't. Because this was just on Amazon Prime. And I'm sure that's how it came out in America as well. Because
just like
Paramount
no
Plus
warning whatsoever.
Yeah, no warning. It's just,
crazy.
Hey, this is heavy.
Yeah.
No, totally agree. I wish it had as well. But yeah, I'm really glad with the way that they actually showed us what happened as well. The red-headed Borgulan, we get to see her and we get to wrap up her story as well. So she is part of the Zhat Vash and was accidentally assimilated by, well, not accidentally, deliberately assimilated by a Borg cube.
I didn't like what they said. Like when she was talking to her aunt, like what's the Romulan girl's name? The sister?
Narissa.
Yeah. When she said something like, you broke the Borg cube with your grief.
So I think she was being a bit dramatic. It's more likely that
that better not be the only explanation that we're ever given is what I'm saying. Don't look at me like that. Don't.
So I think
no.
There's kind of like a spectrum. So you kind of immediately bash your own head in with a rock at one end of the spectrum, and then at the other end is, right, this is the mission for the rest of my life. I'm going to kill all of the AI that I can. The redheaded, and I'm really sorry, I can't remember her name, but the redheaded Borgulan Romulan lady, she ended up somewhere in the middle. So she didn't kill herself. She wasn't clear enough to be on the mission. She just lost her mind. And then the Borg, this cube shortly assimilated her after that, and her insanity drove them insane.
I don't believe that for a fucking second.
Okie
That is a throwaway. That is a disappointment, and that is a sin on the show.
Sin.
I don't know if I'll remember it in our ReSINstance is futile.
Yeah.
But if I don't, just hit it right now. That's the bullshit.
You can't
tell me that in the history of the Borg, I'm sorry, we're doing this now. You can't tell me that there hasn't been a person or whatever that's been assimilated that has had a broken mind filled with grief.
Mm-hmm. So, but this is a very specific one because this is something
about the future
left by an ancient
blah, blah, blah.
civilization, and
blah blah blah.
It's some kind of. It could be a mental virus. It could be something that was then passed on to the Borg because they assimilate everything. So I don't have too much of a problem with it. But yeah, I thought that was really satisfying as well. I liked the admonition. I liked the logic behind all of that. So where else do we? I think we jump after that into Rios having an extremely visceral reaction to Soji's reaction when she beams aboard, and he checks out. He's just like, right, set a course for Starbase 12. I'll drop you off there, and then I'm checking out, Captain. I'm gone. See you later. Which leads us into Raffi speaking to all of the holograms, and holograms assemble.
I feel like this is an episode you've been waiting for a long time.
Oh, it is, 100%. I love this episode. Now, the shift in tone between the Borg cube, the admonition stuff, and the funny holograms is a bit jarring, but I love the Rios holograms.
I think it's nice to try to couple, a depth and seriousness with comedy. I think that's it's a normal kind of storytelling thing where you don't want to blast your audience too much. And I understand that this was a unique thing. I think having seen these different characters peppered in to the show so far, to bring them all together is something that everybody sort of was wanting to see.
So much fun. Yeah.
So I didn't mind it at all. In fact, there was that moment when they all hit the side of their head at the same time. They kind of make the same motion at the exact same time.
It's so
I thought
good.
That was brilliant and fun. So
yeah, how synchronized they are is so fun.
Yeah, it was interesting to choose to have a background connection for Rios to Soji. That was unexpected.
Yes.
And that's kind of a fun thing to experience. I mean, it's definitely a fun plot tie. When you think about all the ways, we're talking about he talks about his captain, that he really, what was the captain's name? Captain.
Oh, you've got me now.
Vandermeer. When he's talking about Captain Vandermeer, I was thinking why couldn't it have been the captain from the previous episode and they could have tied those two together somehow?
So that's a good point.
I think the plot tying together is always a fun option. Sometimes it's just too much. This one is interesting to do, and I think it was smart. It's a fine thing because it gives Rios's background a little bit more validity, and it also ties him to Soji in an interesting way because he's met her before.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a really interesting thing. But anyways, all of the characters together was fun for me. I didn't understand some of what multiple of them were saying.
Me neither. The Scottish one, I don't think that was even real Scottish slang. He just kept saying a lot of stuff, and Raffi's like, that's not even a language.
Do you know what it reminds me of? Okay, so here's a little history of Ian and Deneé. So Ian invited me to join his role-playing friends group with his D&D campaign. And so I got introduced to his role-play buddies, which is a lot of fun. So, and a couple of them are in Ireland. And we got to talking about accents one day, and they shared a video in our group chat. I think it was of a Scotsman who was describing the weather that day. Yeah. I watched this video 15 times because I could not understand anything. But what was fun is that Albie could. Albie just instantly knew what was being spoken.
Yeah, that was it was about one Irish comedian was
it Irish
describing
comedian?
Yeah, they were Irish. It was an Irish comedian that was describing something that had happened with the police at a newsagent's, but did it in really fast colloquial local Irish slang.
Totally
and the
local
other comedian
slang.
Just translated it immediately, but the rest of us are
what?
What happened there?
But anyway, I really enjoyed it because it's clear that they themselves are having fun, and watching the actor who plays Rios interact with himself was really delightful.
It's
also
great.
I felt like Raffi in this scene is really coming into her character for me because played the different elements of her character, the brokenness and the paranoia, and then this broken mother. And now she's kind of pulling herself together in a way. It's almost like when she sees someone else broken, she steps into her power a little bit, which is great.
Sure. Yeah.
But seeing her interact with all those characters and just the way that she delivered some of her lines was really humorous, and I loved it.
Oh, I think she's really coming into herself as well. Totally
she's
agree.
on the hunt for a great mystery she's been trying to solve for a long time. And
this is the closest she's coming to it. And it just happens to be linked to Rios as well. So she figures out that the Conclave of 8 that she's been trying to track down is actually a group of 8 stars. And that is such an unlikely event that it has to be person-made or alien-made. It's artificial. Yeah.
Artificial. Something.
The only reason you do that is to say, oi, over here, look at this planet. And just
a warning.
Yeah.
It's either to brag or a warning.
Yeah, to brag or a warning. Well, either way, the bragging is kind of like, hey, look at this warning right here. Look at that. Yeah. You know what? And I guarantee they used robots and AI to make the stars as well. So there's no way they did it on their own.
Man, that's the thing about them introducing this idea of this artificial star system. I instantly want to know how it was created, and I don't know if they're going to ever answer that question. But I would love
I want to see
know.
all the pieces moving. And
I know
one of my favorite episodes of The Next Generation is about a thing called a Dyson sphere, which is basically they put a metal shell around a star, and then on the internal perimeter or circumference of the sphere, you have a civilization. And because all of the star's energy is captured inside this massive sphere, you have an unlimited amount of energy.
Power.
And it's just the size of it. Like, this is the size of the Earth's orbit around the sun. That's been built. And it's like, oh man, those feats of engineering are so cool. And that's the bits of Star Trek that are really fun to think about. Like, thousands of years from now, what could we build? What could we do?
I think that's one thing I love about Star Trek is seeing how they reinvent technology.
Yeah.
And like, for example, in this episode, once again, we get to see Rios power his ship. And as he was doing it with his hand kind of out, like just sort of zooming his hand out into the air to manage a ship, it reminded me of a kid playing with a toy ship. Like it kind of has that same feel. Like if you were to pick up your, one of the things that you have in the background of your room right now, one of your ships and just kind of fly it around. Yeah. That's what it looks like for Rios to actually pilot his actual starship.
Wait, let me just grab my La Serena, and here we go.
I wish this was visual
right
now.
Child. Yep.
But it has that kind of nice thing. And the other thing that was interesting about this episode when regarding technology was seeing all of the Rios AIs when access information in their eyes. I thought that was a really cool way to, visually see that they're accessing a cortex. We also got to see something else that was interesting in someone else's eyes on this episode too, which we'll get to in a second.
Oh yeah, we will. So we got I didn't realize how rarely Rios's backstory is referred to, considering how integral it is to what's going on. It only gets peppered in a little bit, and it's in the previously on for this episode, so obviously it's going to come full circle. Yeah. But for me, I loved seeing him like in his quarters unpack his Starfleet box, and it had his uniform in it, his pips, his little communicator, and we basically find out that his old ship 7, 8 years ago picked up 2 Soji-like androids,
them up.
Synthetics. Yeah, so it wasn't
them up.
No, it wasn't, because they were killed. So
this was what confused me.
Okay,
is if they were killed, so that means that Maddox was just pumping out multiple versions. So he didn't just make 2; he made multiples.
So we know that he made 4 because these 2 were picked up for whatever reason.
That's some bullshit. Sorry.
Okay.
I was really excited.
Is futile.
I really got excited about the possibility that they were like killed, and like because he said he jettisoned them out the hatch. So then my idea was like they got picked back up. And
he shot them.
No, I know, but they can be fixed.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Right. So then my idea was that they're the same. When she said, "How do I know that I like that?" I thought that she was actually Jonna, that Soji is Jonna. The only time that got confusing for me is at the end when she said, do it for Jonna, as if Jonna was another person, which makes sense if there were 4 of them, which makes me feel a little bit like, I don't know, I just don't like that as much. I like my version a little bit better where they're jettisoned out and discovered and then like fixed or some shit.
Yeah, and then dumped on the Borg cube. I get what you mean. They definitely lean into like quantum tunneling, so like 2 things are paired regardless of distance. So she shares the memories of Jana because they're all made from the same neuron. Like that's what they're getting at.
But the neuron was Data's first. It wasn't theirs. So it wasn't
made
Data's
from the same
memory.
thing. Oh, it doesn't make any sense. Like it's leaning on quantum fuzziness a lot.
It's dumb.
Yeah.
It would have been better.
It would. 100%.
If they got jettisoned out and they had like these little homing devices and Maddox went out and picked them up, fixed them and sent them back out and said, you know what, I can't put them on a ship like this because that didn't work. So I'm going to send one to the Borg cube and I'm sending one to Earth or whatever. And because he sent them out to go find things. Just to me, I thought that it would be more interesting. Anyway, I'm moving on from that. I don't want to spend the next 25 minutes talking about how I could have done it better.
Sorry. I get it. I like it. But yeah, we find out that Rios's captain, who he was extremely close to, had a directive from Commodore Rowe that you got to kill these 2, vent them, or we will just straight up blow up your ship.
Yeah, heavy stuff.
Onto the Borg cube. 7 of 9 to the rescue. So Elnor gets a little bit of time in the sun where he gets to kick all of the butt until he is overwhelmed. And 7 of 9 appears from nowhere. We're not going to question how she gets onto the cube, but she gets there. It's like whoever wrote the episode is like, we have 7.5 minutes to spend on the Borg cube. We need to use these minutes extremely wisely. So it's no messing about. Let's get 7 to do the cool stuff as quickly as possible. Did you like her sudden return? Did you like the literal ex machina that is 7 of 9 coming in to save the day?
There's some things about the arrival of heroes that's always a little frustrating, because it's like we don't get to see the story of how they got to where they were. Similar to how Elnor showed up to save Picard in the previous time, 2 episodes ago maybe, where he just beams over and magically finds him in a Borg cube that is the size of a planet. It's just...
it's huge. Yeah.
Okay, maybe a small planet, but still, So those are the kinds of things that I'm like, yeah, whatever. But, we knew she was coming. I'm surprised she's alone, but that's fine. And then we're just like... going into and I said it before it happened, like, here comes the queen, like
here she is. Here's my Borg queen. So that was really, really cool. I absolutely loved that. Like there's a cool little exchange where 7 of 9 is like, I've got to choose to reassimilate all of the Borg, make them do what I want them to do and kind of become the thing that I hate so much. Where it became disappointing, and we'll do this more in ReSINstance, is Futile, is that you never get to see it. The Borg just get vented. So for me, it was a little bit anticlimactic.
Like some still were able to come to the rescue.
Just the XPs that were already walking around.
XPs, and somehow they knew. I don't know.
Well, they're still connected to the collective in some way. So 7 was still controlling them. But yeah, it was really cool to see 7 get jacked in and hooked up, and we are the Borg. Oh, that was so cool.
Her eyes turning black, and then like the chip element of her eyes kind of coming in. And they did a really good job, looking back on the episode where they showed all of the ways that her body has been modified to remind us that she still has all these implants in her. Even though she looks very human, she's very much still machine. And so when the queen device is activated and she's like, all right, plug me in, the thing that's interesting to me is, even though this Borg cube has been separated from the hive, do you think that she's connected to the hive in that moment?
So she says,
or is she kind of like in her own little individual bubble?
Yeah, so she says that she's creating a mini collective. So I think I
heard her say that, but I wasn't sure.
I think a lot of the whizzing around that she was doing was isolating that. Although it wouldn't surprise me if later on in a different series we get, oh, hey, that sent a signal and the Borg wanted to come and rescue it, or whatever. They can do whatever they want.
She did say at the very end that she still has work to do, as if it was a different person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think there is this idea that her as the collective is a different person to Annika, which is her obviously human name.
Yeah. So when that was said, when the queen kind of said that Annika still has work to do, my initial thought was, oh, I think that she was connected to the actual queen at this moment, and the actual queen let her go because she was also worried, whenever she was connected in, that she wouldn't be able to come back out.
Yeah, we'll whack that into the predictions. I think that's a fair one. I just wish we'd had more time with it. I really do. I loved the drama of that. I loved the Romulans, the ships turning up, the Romulan bad guy music as well. Bum 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 bum.
See, I missed that because I forgot that was the music. So that's cool.
So good. I think if you watch the series again, you wouldn't be able to unhear the Romulan theme popping up again. So good.
It was an important moment to shift what's happening on the Borg cube. We're kind of saying goodbye to Hugh. We're saying goodbye to this, this interesting sideline. And then we have this takeover. And of course, I've got predictions for what's going to happen with that too. But it was an interesting scene. And it was also interesting to see Elnor kind of be afraid of what he had just witnessed, which,
for sure.
Let's be honest, it would be terrifying.
I love his little, so are you going to assimilate me now? It's like he's read about it in a book, but he's so naive that he doesn't know what that is and how terrifying being assimilated would be. He's almost curious.
He's like a child. He's a deadly, murderous child.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a murder child. It's like, I want some of the assimilation stuff. So yeah, again, love more time there, but it was fine. It did what it needed to do. It wrapped up the Borg cube a bit.
Yeah, but it's nice to actually feel that in a show. And that's kind of for me, even 2 times of going, ooh, I want to see how this 8-star system works. Yeah. And ooh, I want to see this Borg Romulan situation go longer. And when you're watching an hour-long show and you want to say, you know what, I would give 20 minutes for this scene. Yeah. You know that they're doing it right. Because there is something to the saying of leave them wanting more. There is something to that where you're not giving them everything. And in this case, that's exactly one of the scenes that I would have loved to have seen, just a big old battle between Borg and Romulan. That'd been fucking cool.
Yeah, I was right. That's my biggest ReSINstance is Futile, so I'm gonna pause there.
I do. Before we move on from the Borg cube, though, I do want to say that watching the Borg cube begin to fix itself was fucking
so
rad.
Cool.
It's really strange to be like, yeah, Borg, woo!
Because the bigger bad guys, the Romulans, these are Borg that we're actually rooting for. Although for me, I was like, you do not want to allow that ship to repair itself. I don't care how isolated it is. Do not fix the Borg cube.
This is exactly, there's such a conflict inside of me, this is rad, also no!
Oh no!
Please stop, but also cool.
But also don't stop, please carry on. Yeah, I mean, Narissa gets really mustache twirly in this, and what I've noticed on this run through is that Narissa's a bit annoying. She's a bit over the top.
Well, she's a narcissist, just like her name insinuates, right?
Yeah, she totally is. I would have made a better Borg than you. ReSINstance is futile.
Well, you might be one now because you were captured, so...
Oh, no, she beamed out.
Oh, that's right. She beamed out. But in that moment, I was like, yeah, you're going to be Borg now.
Assimilated, yeah, fuck you. Also, I'm really sorry you're getting assimilated. That's terrible.
I know, but you mentioned it just briefly, but I want to make sure that I... really take a second to appreciate that there was that moment where Seven was like, you want me to turn them into slaves? And there's part of it that's just I think I might want to do that, but I don't want to do that. What a really interesting struggle. So when Narissa got captured, I was like, oh, maybe she's going to turn her into it. And I was like, what am I doing? This is bad.
Do it. No, you don't want that. And I love how Seven comes to terms with it. It's only when the lights keep disappearing and she's like, look, they're dead anyway. This is for their own good.
I might as well control them.
I may as well control them and do some good with it.
Yeah, I might as well use these inevitably dead things to my advantage.
Let's use the metal meat sacks to kill some Romulans before they get vented into ice cubes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other big thing we hit on is Soji bonding with pretty much everyone. So Agnes gets exposed as the Tal Shiar Zatvash spy, the semi-spy that she is. She's been brainwashed, essentially. And Agnes bonds with Soji. She gets her time to say, oh my God, you're what we've been working towards. You have freckles, you eat, you drink, you wee, you do all of the things that we question whether robots should be able to do them. And that paid off for me. I thought that was really satisfying. Did you like that? Not reunion, but meetup?
I think that it's nice to see Agnes have such a huge part of her desire as a scientist revealed. Like her greatest, experiment of her lifetime and maybe even the lifetime of history, like in history that she got to be a part of, that she gets to see it. And the idea here is that she sees this being and it changes her mind again in a way, I think is what they want to go for, which is understandable because, Soji is just this fantastic creation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was okay. I think it satisfied, like, okay, she gets to see it. Because it's one of the lingering questions is, will she ever get to actually see Soji?
Yeah. Knowing how dangerous her meeting Soji would potentially be.
Yeah. I also, again, am really impressed with the actress. She's got this quivering chin thing down to a science.
Yeah, she does. She can cry on cue.
Yeah. The intensity that she's really emoting, the emotion, I am like captured by it.
Yeah. So sincere, isn't it?
Yeah. She's really conveying just the depth of, there's a lot of really great acting in Picard that I'm really, really impressed with. Just, little character quirks, and Agnes has many of them because she started off really kind of innocent and demure, and then she's turned into something deadly, and now she's trying to kind of recapture that innocence. I think that there's a couple of things about her character development that are like, okay,
that's a jump. Yeah, I've got one of them in ReSINstance.
I might too, but overall I think it's nice to see that she got to have an interaction with Soji and ask questions and actually marvel at Soji.
Yeah.
The only thing that I feel is a little bit, it could have been a little bit too long. I think it was actually maybe just the perfect length because we've seen Soji this whole time. So we, the viewer, like, yeah, we know all this stuff already.
Yeah.
So we have to be invested in Agnes seeing it for the first time. And we're conflicted about Agnes. So it's just a really interesting scene where I was super, super into it. And also like, I hope this doesn't last long because
yeah, we've done this.
There's so much emotion coming out of Agnes right now that I kind of needed to stop. And then, and also, yeah, fucking Soji's rad. She's got moles and shit. Let's move on.
Yeah, let's do it. We know. You need that to kind of buy that there's any chance that Agnes isn't going to kill her. Like, she needs to be overwhelmed by how amazing Soji is. So I get it. And I did think they found the right balance.
I did too. And I also like that Soji got to say, like, I know that you're going to kill me and I'm not going to give you a chance to. I was like, fuck yeah, Soji. Because I kind of want to see what sort of a power creature she becomes, because right now she is that palpable avatar of a female for me, where she's played off as innocent sometimes and she's played off as powerful sometimes, and she's confused, but she's so it's like, okay, what kind of a heroine am I watching come to life in front of me? What are the writers going to make Soji become? And when you have a powerful female character like this, I'm hoping to see some traits that I would want other young girls to see and be like, I want to be like that. Because when you have a powerful character like Soji, you have a storytelling device that can impact culture. And so I'm looking at Soji, who is beautiful, intelligent, fully capable of handling herself, and likely going to be deciding the fate of the future of mankind. So I'm sure that they're going to be putting in, the telltale Star Trek, things. But like, I really am curious. Then they did something really powerful in this. I don't know if you clocked it, but there's a moment when they get on the ship and Picard is telling her, you have to trust me. I know that sucks. And I was like, I like how he said that. That was respectful. And then he turns around to guide her into the next area. And something that happens all the time in media, just watch all the time, is dudes reach out and guide women in a direction. Yeah. Don't fucking touch me. I know how to walk. Right. And if I don't want to go that way, but you know what Picard did? He didn't touch her.
Nope.
He had this nice buffer zone of like, this is the direction I want you to go, but I'm not going to make you go that way. And I don't know if that was intentional direction from the director or if that was Sir Patrick Stewart just fucking slaying. But I really loved, I wrote it down. I was like, thank you for not grabbing her wrist when you want her attention, which happens all the time in media, or grabbing the woman and turning her around so she's facing the direction you want her to face. Like, thank you for letting the woman just decide where she wants to go.
And the director is a female director, so that kind of makes sense as well. But I would love to think that it's...
Sorry, I get really passionate about that. It's weird. I've never met a guy that I've been like, hey, has anyone ever physically picked you up and moved you into a different direction before? Because it's happened to me in my lifetime multiple times where people really actually feel like they have a right to move me.
Move the cave woman.
So for this like palpable, like, you know, Soji's becoming this thing and men can influence her and people can influence her, whatever. People of power can influence her. It's really interesting to see how they decide to let Soji be Soji.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. There's my little rant there.
I love it. No, it's great. And I absolutely hope that Patrick Stewart had something to do with it as well. But yeah,
I do too.
Yeah.
No, we might never know, but it's an interesting kind of moment. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good shit. And I love that she's getting more to do and just takes over the ship and just like, please don't take over my ship.
Yeah. She steps up to Agnes and she's like, I know you're going to kill me or try to, but I have something to say about that. And I'm like, yeah, that's good. And so there's just these nice little character. This is a good episode to show character development. And that's what the pieces were about, right?
And when she punches through the table and everyone's just like, oh shit, what's going to happen? Is she going to like punch through the ship? Like there's always that potential of she is powerful. So it's fun not knowing where that's going to go next.
They do a great job of just showing fear about what it could be. Like even Rios says something about concerns about the future, right? Like, was it Rios? One of the characters kind of towards the end is like, are we sure, you know, this is dangerous. Like she's dangerous. Yeah. Oh, and Picard at the end, he's just like, we've all made her do it our way. Let's let her do it her way.
Yeah,
like, that's good.
We have no other options at the minute. Let's just go. Let's do it.
I mean, they could try to kill her. I guess we know that phasers can just take her out.
Yep. Nope. Let's not do that. Picard, those aren't your phasers.
This is not your fucking ship. Why are you in the captain's seat? That was a fun moment too.
Great. But he's just like, I don't know how this works.
I don't know how to do this.
I totally thought it was going to be a badass moment of he takes control and is like, he barely knew how to fly the Enterprise, let alone whatever this ship is.
So funny. It was so great. Good. I loved that.
I love it. And I do love that they don't let Picard have those moments just for the sake of it. Like he has to earn them.
Like you can almost feel the audience just taking a deep breath and leaning forward like, here it goes. Here we go. Oh, okay. That's fine. Yeah, that makes sense.
No, that's cool. So a good place to wrap up is that Picard demands something and actually gets it this time when he meets with Admiral Clancy, and he's just arguing. And she's just like, will you shut the fuck up long enough for me to say I agree with you?
She doesn't actually say she agrees. She just says, I'm sending ships.
Yeah, I have no choice. I will send you some ships. But he is so smug. It's like, yeah, well, I told you there was a big problem. Yeah, but you brought her no evidence, asshole. Like, come on. What did you expect her to do?
Yeah, it's good. It's a fun little back and forth.
It was a relief for me because it was like, we don't have to have another argument. Let's just send the ships.
Mm-hmm. And Rafi is doing something similar in this one too, where she's like, I told you so. Like she starts off the episode when Picard gets back to the ship and she comes in and she says, Agnes was a spy. Soji's questionable. I told you so. So there's like some I told you so moments in this one, which just this episode had a lot of it was a lot of character talking to each other instead of this compartmentalized conversations over here because someone's on this planet and someone's in this ship. It was a really kind of coming together of the group. And it's even kind of winked out with Agnes saying like, this is the closest I've come to a crew and I fucked it up. Yeah. But there's still a crew.
They're still a crew.
They're still together.
And they're
not going to deep space to turn themselves in. So we'll see how that turns out.
Mm-hmm. We will indeed. And the episode ends with them opening up a Borg slipstream, a Borg transwarp tunnel, which is going to zap them straight to Soji's planet with a little stowaway in the wake of Lasserie.
How fun was it to see that that I like when they showed the visual of this whatever they're flying through.
It's basically a big wormhole.
Wormhole thing.
So
it looked
cool.
really pretty, and I love when they get to play with that stuff.
Yeah, they do. The new shows in particular do like warp effects, warp graphics, stuff in space so well. It still feels Star Trek, but it still feels updated. So pretty.
I was happy to see it, and I was also, you probably noticed the visual, but going into this planet world, and then the little stowaway jumping in, which is, I assume, Narc, who figured out where they were going, and then just kind of hung out waiting for them to show up so that he could also show up.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like an eye. Did you notice that?
Oh, I didn't.
Like when they went through the hole, it just looked like the coloring of our eyes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was really kind of symbolic in that way.
Oh, being spied upon. Yeah, that's good shit. Wouldn't surprise me.
Well, that and the intro, because in the intro to the show, it's all like going through the eyes. It's all very eye-centered with the iris and kind of just all the details of just what we see in creation, things like that. So I thought that was really beautiful symbolism and hopefully intentional, or I'm reading into things, which happens all the time.
Oh, well, I never read into things enough, so between us, it's probably somewhere in the middle. We haven't really mentioned too much of Picard other than him talking to Clancy, but he does get a nice moment with Soji and a bit of catharsis where they get to talk about Data and what he was like and the kind of relationship that they had. So sweet. So emotional as well.
It's good because we haven't seen, we have a little bit, but this was an actual scene where Picard got to kind of be Picard.
Mm-hmm.
Where I guess I should say where Sir Patrick got to be Picard, and it wasn't interrupted by something, and there wasn't like an emergency happening. They're just chilling, eating, and we have a second to just sit down and see him talk to someone in the safety of this scene. And so it kind of was like, oh, I can relax a little bit and hear how he is going to talk to Picard. And based on the previous episode, we know that Soji is trying to find a way to connect to him. And so to do it through Data was so emotional. Yeah. And to hear him say like that he also struggles with emotion was really powerful.
That was so good. When she's like, did you love him? And he's like, yes, because he does struggle with emotions and getting close to people. It's just how he was raised. I thought he was
going to be like, yeah, I loved him a lot. But instead he's thinking about what love means, you know? And love is so complex. And I feel like he does love Data, obviously.
Of course.
In a way, but for Picard to not know how to answer that shows that he has a disconnection to emotion, or even trying to figure out how to connect to love, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And then she asks if Data were to say something about you, like how do you hope that Data would talk about you? And Picard lists all of these things that he would hope someone would feel about him. I almost started crying in that scene because those are such beautiful attributes. I wish I would have written them down. Like I would have just turned off the part of me that was loving it and just started typing super fast and I want to go back and watch it. I want to be that for people too. Like,
of course.
That was like the writers saying, here are all of the archetype core values of this Picard character. And it was like they were saying out loud all of the reasons that I love him so much in this scene. And I fucking want to print that shit on a poster and put it up on my wall or something. It was like words to live by.
They really are. Like the last two bits that are really powerful to me, and it's that I'll always be somebody that's there to help you when you need it, and when you don't, I'll back off and let you get on with it. And that is Picard all the way. He lets people make mistakes themselves. And is then there to give them the kind of the lesson and the shoulder at the end to help them out. But he knows that people need to be their own people, make their own mistakes. He's never preachy. He's almost a reluctant leader sometimes because he wants people to forge their own path. And he's so modest with it as well. But yeah, you're right. It's the stuff that he's talking about is how you'd hopefully want your children to see you, how the people that work for you see you. They are just good words to live by. So yeah, it's a beautiful scene.
It was one of those, as a fan of Picard, the reason that I'm doing this podcast with you is because like if there's one thing to bring me back to the table to Star Trek, for me personally, it's the character Picard. And I'm listening to him and I'm like, do I value these things in my life because I watched you so much growing up? Like, you know what I mean? It's sort of like,
oh, I know I do.
Whoa, okay.
Certain.
You know, sure, my parents showed me great values too, but also you, Picard.
Honestly,
I love you.
Like my entire retail management career is based on Picard's School of Management. Like, honestly, I'm not even joking or exaggerating. Like, I picture myself being Picard when I'm in charge of people. Like, he's the kind of leader that I want to be. And it's great when you can pull something like that from a work of fiction, a work of entertainment. It's why we do the job we do.
One more thing I just want to say really quickly before we move on is there was a moment when Soji said he loved you. And to see the emotion in this elder Picard like just wash over him, where he kind of, oh man, if I was having struggles with my emotions loving what he was saying in the scene so much, and then to see him get emotional, I was like, no,
I'm not ready. I'm live. I'm being recorded. People cannot see this. Kill it. Yeah, it's great. There was they've really taken their time with these episodes, and so much of it is about giving Picard the moments with Data that he didn't get because they killed him off so quickly in Nemesis. Like, Data, the character, deserved a better send-off. And just all of the conversations they've had throughout The Next Generation, for all of it to kind of come to nothing when he just gets blown up, was a massive kick, and it was played for emotions rather than, or a shock rather than anything meaningful. So there's a lot of fixing that in, and I think they fix it really well. Okay, with that, it is time to head to engineering for ReSINstance is Futile.
Warning, warp core collapse in 10 seconds.
This is the part of the show where we re-engage our sin brains, remind ourselves that no TV show is without sin, even our beloved Star Trek. So, Deneé, you first.
Okay, I'm gonna start with, I'll just kind of go over here. When Rafi goes and finally finds Rios, she walks into his room and she goes to the replicator and she gets a coffee for him. Why wouldn't she get wine for herself? Now I understand that we're trying to... I did too. And I was like, oh, she has a replicator. She's been struggling with drinking. She can't do that in her own space, but certainly she could do it in somebody else's space. And maybe it's like character growth because she knows that alcohol is bad for her. And sure, but I was like, what? You're not even going to have like a little like
celebratory one?
Just a little shot of wine? You know, nothing?
I think as soon as she realizes why, as soon as she wants it and doesn't need it, she's okay to not have it. When she needs it and can't have it, then she has to have it. Like, the reason she's been drinking is to help sort out why every day ends with disappointment of, I don't know anything more about this conspiracy. But now she knows that there is an answer to the conspiracy. So
that's interesting.
She doesn't need the alcohol anymore. This is the closest she's got to a resolution. But yeah, I was expecting her to go for wine as well. But I love that she brought him coffee just like he brought her coffee. There's so much there that we haven't discovered between their relationship, that, and when she calls him babe, like, oh, I'm so sorry, babe. It's so sweet.
It's so genuine. Cute. It feels genuine. There's still a chance in my mind that Rafi might be like nuts enough to not be genuine, but I think that she actually is. I really liked her character in this episode.
Yeah, so much improvement. I am gonna just hit it straight away. The biggest sin of the entire season, the entire series for me, is the wasted Borg. I was so friggin' excited to see 7 of 9 get plugged in. You see all of the Borg in the alcoves, and I'm like, we're going to get some stomping Borg, and we're going to have like a legion of them just walking around the Borg cube, assimilating Romulans, kicking all of the butt. Nope. And my dreams and excitement were literally vented into space through an open door. They all leave. It is such, I get it, the budget would have been out of the window, and I guarantee they had to choose between this scene or that scene, and they chose a different scene instead. And I can probably tell you which scene it is. But it was so disappointing for me to go through the build-up of getting 7 plugged back in, and we don't get to see anything come of it. The Romulans beam away, 7 of 9 has some XBs and a Borg ship. Yeah. Big sin. Not inconsistent, just frustrating.
My sin on that one is they're like on the balcony, narcissistic sister,
yeah,
and her commander or whatever, and they're like standing there, and the airlock opens and all the Borg start to go out, and it's like, wait, are you guys behind a force field or something? Like, how are you also not being sucked out? I wonder too if they just didn't do it because they didn't want to show a whole bunch of enslavement. Like, that's just a lot to be saying that they were all against, and then to bring it back in. And
but hey, suicide's great.
It was an easy, it was an easy out, literally out.
Yeah, out.
And they're just flinging out in space.
It's kind of like, how do we close Pandora's box after we've let the Borg cube out of the box? I get it.
I can understand that.
Man, it frustrated me.
One of my big sins was Elnor hugging 7 of 9. What the fuck?
Yeah, just relief.
Okay, when did Elnor get so huggy? Number one, and number two, what kind of personality do you feel like 7 is giving off that she's someone who likes to be touched that way?
Nope. Like, this lady that's gone through extreme trauma and violated in so many ways. Let's not hug her.
And she comes in, she's like, where's Hugh? How does she not know that that Elnor didn't do something to, like, they don't have any real history together except for like so why wasn't she not suspicious of Elnor as well? They didn't have a conversation about that. It's just like, I know that I'm here to rescue someone, and it was a little bit
pairing.
It was a little bit odd to me.
Yeah. It baffles me. Emil, the Doctor hologram, is only now sharing the fact that Agnes killed Maddox,
turned him off. Like, he's been switched on since then. I just don't understand how that isn't explained and how that happens. No. That baffles me. Like, that is such a key plot point. Yeah, we talked about it when it happened. Like, if this isn't captured on a camera somewhere and talked about, this is a big problem. I had to bite my lips
so much.
And I saw you, and I was like, oh, this isn't ever really going to be resolved.
This doesn't ever get resolved, does it? Yeah.
Huge sin. Totally huge sin. Agree.
Massive.
I also, like, regarding Agnes, I like how the line is just like, I'm done murdering people, so that's a good thing. And then we're just moving on.
Second biggest sin was Agnes saying, well, I would never kill you now that I've met you. I was like, this was never a choice. Like, this says one of two things. You chose to kill Maddox and didn't have to, which means you're going to jail. Or you can now just suddenly undo the brainwashing because of fuzzy feelings. Like, that would be sin.
Huge sin for me. I wrote it. Yeah. I wrote it as well. She says, now that I've met you, I wouldn't do it. And I wrote, but you would kill Maddox. So how does this matter? How does this matter? Like, you saying that means nothing to us. Just because you're seeing your creation doesn't mean that you wouldn't do it.
No, it's magic fairy thinking. Yeah.
What else? Do you have anything else for sinning?
It's my turn, isn't it? Convenient psychic block is convenient. This is with Agnes.
And an awareness of it as well.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh no, I'm not allowed to talk about it because of a psychic block that you can now ignore. Like,
when she goes, I don't want to talk about it. I was like, man, I relate to that.
Yeah.
Like, when someone's like kind of pressing in on an emotional thing, you're like, I don't want to fucking talk about it.
Deneé, how do you feel about this? Oh, I don't want to talk about this. Okay, moving on.
I'll be like, guys, I have a psychic block. Okay.
Oh my gosh, do it. Yeah, Romulan gave me a psychic block. Your turn.
Oh, I feel like one of the big ones for me is Elnor. When he is found by 7, he says, Picard released me and I found a different lost cause.
Yeah.
And I really feel like this brings into question the entire idea of giving your sword to a cause that you will abandon for a worse lost cause, meaning that the previous lost cause is even worse off because you left it.
Yes.
So then you get like in this sort of loop of, because you left this cause, it is now even more lost.
Yep.
So to me, it's like, yeah, even Picard was like releasing him in a lot of ways already. So it's like, it was total plot convenience that he went to the Borg cube in the first place. It quote unquote gives us a reason to go back to the scene multiple times. And I understand why they're doing that, but for me, it called into question the validity of their entire like mantra, their whole religion of staying with a lost cause until it is fully lost or whatever.
And to be honest, like, that was weird. Hugh wasn't a lost cause. He had all the power. He had the XPs. He had his position of diplomatic immunity.
He could have turned on all the Borg. He wasn't a lost
he was
cause.
fine. It's only when Narissa pops up and there's some loophole, but he didn't know that. Yeah, I totally agree. The idea that there's always somebody worse off, it must drive them crazy, because it's like, well, why is this my lost cause? There's got to be somebody that's worse off.
Yep, I agree with that.
My last one was, man, does this Zatvash plan rely on Commodore O getting into position? Oh my goodness. So this half Romulan, half Vulcan gets put into Starfleet, rises through the ranks. There's only one head of security in the whole of Starfleet. Like, you've got to be so lucky that the position comes available. And I'm sure there's things where they assassinated people and blackmailed people and maneuvered things. But man, there has got to be an easy way of doing this than a 30-year plan. Jesus. I know the Romulans are complicated, but what were you doing between now and then?
I don't know.
And there's got to be easier ways
question.
to have killed Data as well, because 30 years ago, the only threat was Data. So just fucking blow him up.
Oh, don't talk about Data that way.
No,
That's awful.
Babs, go away. You know nothing about Data.
I love how the audience has no fucking clue what Babs means.
Somebody will.
We'll have to explain it in the outtakes.
We'll explain it in the outtakes.
That's it for me on ReSINstance is Futile.
Nice. Okay, let's head to the final stop, which is the Captain's Ready Room. Welcome to the Captain's Ready Room, where we hear our ambassador's predictions for the rest of the season finale, and bask in her Q-like glory if anything she's previously predicted has come true. So, you didn't guess the Rios thing, which was... I mean, how could you not?
Well, you knew, but you told me. You told me already.
Yeah, you were never going to guess that.
You let me know that it wasn't true, although you wish it would have been.
I wish, my God, if he had been his own captain and was the holograms all along.
Saw himself die.
Jeepers creepers.
That would have been
really
really...
And they all coalesced into like one big Rios hologram that was just like bulky. Yeah, no. Sad times.
But it was nice to put that one to rest, because I've kind of been waiting to see when that was going to come up, you know.
Yeah, for sure. So, what did you...
I also wasn't right about the prediction of this episode being about getting to home planet and seeing the pieces of Soji.
Exactly.
This was about the pieces of the crew and the pieces specifically of Rios, I think, with all the different parts of his personality.
He was a big missing part of the puzzle. Yeah, for sure. So, I think the big thing is what are they going to find on Soji's home planet? And I think previously you've said it's... do you still think it's going to be this nest of AI and synthetic life forms? I think what I'll lock into, how many do you think there are going to be there? Are we talking like there's 2 left on the slab? There's a planet full of them? There's 15? How many do you think?
I think it's going to be pretty bare, but I feel like the programming is going to be there. I don't know if it's going to be actual beings or if it's going to be like the program that would run the infrastructure of their body. I feel like it's either one or the other. There's either going to be a lot or there's going to be hardly any. I'm not exactly sure. Now that I know that there's been 4, I find that to be very, very frustrating. I still can't get over it when we talked about it earlier. It really bothers me. Yeah. Mostly because it's like, it takes the...
uniqueness?
Yeah. It takes the idea that there's 2 very valuable ones and it replaces it with there's 2 very replaceable ones that can be made again. And the only reason that they might not be able to be made again is that Maddox is dead, but I'm thinking he probably has like a backup plan to that. I feel like we're headed into a big battle of some kind. We've got all the Romulan ships headed to that direction. We've got all of Starfleet headed to that direction. I think we've got a Borg cube headed in that direction. So, which is one of my predictions, is that she uses that as a ship and she's like, let's fucking go. I could be wrong about that. She might just jump back in her little bitty ship, which, by the way, she was supposed to be given one after hers is gone. How did she get off of that previous place, by the way?
How did she get to the Borg cube?
Just thought about that.
A good thing she wasn't mid-mission. She gets there within like minutes.
She was shooting herself out of that of Free Cloud last time we saw her. I guess we're just skipping all of that. That's a huge sin that I totally just thought about that I missed in ReSINstance is Futile. But anyway, so I feel like we're going towards this planet where there's going to be a big battle for the value of synthetic life. And I in my imagination, I either see like a Matrix style big sort of central computer. sort of a thing, or I see a few androids kind of walking around that are like still like partial, but not like fully
lost, a bit
able.
childlike.
Yeah. But I don't think that there's enough resources to make an army of synth, like human looking synths. I could be wrong about that, but I don't know. I see something smaller. That's my instinct, is something smaller.
It is noted in the log. I think that's probably it. We've kind of got Raffi wrapped up.
I think Raffi is still going to have her moment when the theories are all known. Starfleet's going to show up and be able to not avoid the fact that, quote unquote, she was right.
Just
so there's going
imagine
to be a
her
redemption story there.
stumbling onto the bridge saying, I fucking told you in your
I'm
face.
still going to be shocked if her son doesn't show up now. And if not now, he should be in another season, because I don't know why they'd give him screen time. Like for that, I could be completely fucking wrong as usual.
No, you've been great with the predictions. Albert was shocked.
I do feel like also if they wanted to do something with the Queen, Borg kind of mentioned it during the show proper, so I won't spend a lot of time on it, but I feel like there might be a wink and nod to Borg because of the way that it said Annika still has work to do. And there's like a separation of hive mind and individual.
Oh, for sure.
I don't know if it was just in one cube or if there was a link to Queen. And I'm really curious about that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like that. We will stick it in the prediction log.
Something else that stood out to me, and this might be something you could answer for me. When Soji was talking about towards the end, she's like, when I heard about what happened to my brother and my sister on that particular ship, and I was like, wait, what brother?
Oh, so they were twins, but it was a male and a female. So you know the doodle that Rios
That was
had?
a guy. I thought it was two women.
No, there's a woman and a man and a woman.
I did not pick that up.
That's what they were. Yeah.
So the man called himself Flower.
Yes, a beautiful flower or something like that. And she was Jana or whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a weird one. It's weird.
It's weird for me to have missed that, but I also was writing an email at one point in time.
That's fair.
Sorry about that.
Hey, I'm just happy you enjoyed the episode, because this was exposition heavy again, but satisfying, because instead of setting up mysteries, it's closing loops.
Yeah, it's doing both. Instead of it all being set up, there's like a balance to both.
Totally. Cool. Well, we have 2 episodes left. The finale, episodes 9 and 10, is a 2-parter. Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. It's Resistance is Futile from me and from Ambassador Deneé.
It's computer, peppermint ice cream, and French fries.
And it's peppermint ice cream and French fries from Deneé. We will see you next week for episode 9. Live long and Podsper.
Thanks for listening. Want to connect with the show? Our hailing frequencies are always open through captainspod@cinemasins.com. Like, comment, and subscribe on your podcast player of choice, and be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
What are you eating though?
Candy.
Candy. What kind of candy?
I'm eating candy. It's sour candy. It's like their little fizzy bottles. This one kind of tastes like bubblegum.
Aren't the bottles just wax, or am I thinking of like American candy?
Why are you eating candles?
This is my question every time I see wax candy in Halloween candies.
Right, what do you mean by wax candy?
Well, it's like a little bottle, and you bite the top off of it because it's made of wax, and then you can pour the liquid into your mouth.
No. This is.
They're just bottle shaped.
It's sour. It's bottle shaped.
Okay.
It has like a pink top and a blue bottom.
You know, that's a huge bottle. I couldn't tell when you held it up to the camera. I was like, you can't see. You can't understand. Yeah, that's huge.
Not that. You what?
Of course, I don't eat a lot of candy. That's like an inch. That's like 2 inches big. That's a big.
Is 2 inches quite impressive for you, Deneé?
For candy, yes.
Yeah.
There's these moments when you realize that if you were to hang out with somebody in person, that you would be like good candy partners. Like you could eat those. I wouldn't touch them.
Oh yeah, because you need to like different candy. Like if you both like the same, then you just end up arguing.
Or you have to share.
No. What? No.
Or you can share. That's an option.
What? No.
But it's uncomfortable because you want them all.
No, I don't want to share. I'm not sharing.
Would you not share with me?
Fuck. Heck no. How are you, Deneé?
No. Before you ask me how I am,
no. Okay.
I need to know what candy you don't eat. Like if I was, because then I know what we're gonna. If we go on a road trip, what the snacks are. You get the sour candies. I won't touch those.
Oh man,
but
sour
what won't
is so
you touch?
Good. Really hard candies. Like, you know when we went to Silver Dollar City and had like the toffee stuff? It gets stuck in your teeth. No, not for me. Great, I love watching it being made and melted and jacked around, but you handed me so much and I was like, I'm going to eat it. I'm going to hate it.
You don't have to eat what you know you're going to hate. That's silly.
Of course you do.
No, you don't.
Of course, it was free. Of course you have to eat it.
You don't. What? That is insane. You do not have to eat free stuff.
Did you listen to the words that just came out of your mouth? You don't have to eat. Of course you do. It's free.
No.
That's the best part of it. You haven't had to pay. Well, we had to pay $90 to get in there, but
okay. Let me just make sure I understand what you're saying, Ian.
Yes.
Because it's free.
Yes.
A free sample of taffy that was just made in front of your very eyes.
Yeah.
Knowing you're going to hate it, you still eat it.
It's free. How can you waste it? Free food.
You blame me for handing it to you.
Well, yeah.
Do you ever take responsibility for your own actions? Is my next question.
Why should I?
All right, cool.
There's other people
this is
for
good.
that.
This podcast is really good for me. It really teaches me a lot about you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You remember when I was like, I'm so excited to hire Ian?
No. Well, I didn't ask to. No, I absolutely did ask to be hired. Yes,
wow.
I did.
Everything is someone else. Wow. Yeah. This is our relationship. It's just constant arguing.
And then bringing in Albie to try and solve the problems. And he's like,
Why
I'm not interested.
Like listening to us. We're awful.
We are. You are, especially. What's that? Is that like a soy milk, half oak, tree beard latte with caramel essence of caffeine dewdrops?
I like how you think I want to talk to you anymore. I like that. That's fun.
Oh, you're not going to talk to me? Okay.
I'm thinking.
Oh, you're thinking. Okay,
Jesus.
right. I didn't recognize that face.
All right. You know what? We're just going to restart. He can't hear me because I've muted him. So this will be the first time that Ian hears this because it's on the audio. I wonder how long, he's just eating candy. He gives no fucks. He's just sitting there like chewing his candy like, when is she coming back? This is frustrating. I regret everything. He doesn't regret anything.
Amazing. I'm going to eat some more pretzels.
Oh, okay.
Would you like some?
Nope. You really did eat more food.
No.
I can see you. I feel like I'm being punished for all the times I've trolled Aaron.
I have an open comm channel with Aaron, and he's telling me things to do. He's like, oh yeah, this one time, 2014, she just kept eating pretzels for the entire show.
Wow. I don't remember that.
He does. No, so episode of the week. What are we?
Episode 8, right?
No, I mean, like, we need to make up an adventure.
Oh, okay. Can it involve taffy?
If you want me to have no part in it, then yes.
Perfect.
So there is a new candy that's been introduced to the crew. And Data, for some reason, tries it first, because if it's harmful, he'll be fine.
He wants to know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he wants to know, and biologically, he would be okay. But it welds his teeth together, so he can't talk. This is going to be one of the throwaway episodes that's just a bit funny.
Yeah, the best part of it is like it's also a ventriloquist episode because he doesn't actually need his mouth to talk. He probably has speakers someplace else on his person. So like gills would grow from like gillyweed or something. His throat area just sort of creates a secondary mouth. And so for the entire episode, it's just like this really awkwardness where his human mouth is welded together with this taffy, but his throat mouth isn't. And so it's like the crew is uncomfortable on multiple levels. What a great like acting prompt, like this week you have to emote with your mouth shut the whole time.
Just and with then your eyes.
But they wouldn't be able to do CGI if it's like TNG days. So
No, definitely not.
So it would be a really awkward animatronic like mouth. Or they would just do a speaker. A speaker would be better.
That would work, because otherwise what you've done is you've got a human, dressed him up to be a robot, so that he can then be replaced with an actual robot.
Yeah, it's great.
Great. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the entire episode?
No, because there's something about this taffy that's really strange. Like, why did it melt his mouth shut? It wasn't like, maybe it wasn't intentional. Maybe like if it's a material that is dissolved into metal, it has a different reaction than biological, like than different matter. And it but there's something about it. It's either sentient somehow, right? Or it's something that was designed to be eaten for purpose.
Oh, what if the irony, the kicker here is that it was actually specifically designed to inconvenience AI and androids. So while Data thinks he's protecting the crew, the only person it was ever dangerous.
Yeah, you know what? You know why you're having trouble talking?
Yes.
You know why?
Because I'm eating.
Because you're consuming so much food. You're like the Cookie Monster, but with sour gummies.
I have some pretzels as well that I'm now going to eat
perfect.
instead.
Perfect. Yes, the crunchiness of that will be wonderful to hear. I love it. Sorry, you were saying?
Yes. So he's
Yeah, please fucking chew.
really salty.
Can you stop?
Wow.
Can you stop? Can you just stop eating?
What is in...
Serves you right.
Yeah, so Data thought he was being safe and helping the crew out, but actually the crew would have been fine. And somebody knew that Data would take that risk. So it was just to fuck with him. Maybe it's his twin.
I have a twist. So what if it enhances fear?
Okay.
Or it enhances something. So like his mouth isn't actually shut. He just thinks it is.
Oh, it's psychosomatic.
So for humans, like something becomes real that's not, that doesn't really matter. Like they think that they are dressed like a cowboy, but they're not. Like just something really weird where the whole time everyone's trying to figure out, I don't know. I just like the idea of this.
Dressed like cowboys.
But like some people just think that they can't walk forward, so they're just standing still the entire
they have to walk
episode.
backwards everywhere they go. Picard like forgets all of his commands, so he's like, set a course for somewhere. And what's the thing that I say?
It's something about the mobility of their person. So like Data's is the mobility of his mouth changes.
Oh, Picard wouldn't be able to do like the shirt pull down that he does whenever he
do it
stands,
anymore.
His shirt is always
so it's
wrinkled.
Just slowly bunching up to his neck the whole episode. Just slowly
yes. Riker is unable to mount chairs in the way that he mounts chairs. He has to sit down normally, and it just fucks with him.
It fucks with him the whole time.
His self-esteem is just shattered because that's how he dominates things.
Yes, everyone has to change how they interact with the consoles that are in front of them.
Yep.
So
Worf can only use his nose.
They're all left-handed. Perfect.
Left and right, they just switch. Fire. Yeah. Launch the tractor beam, and he fires phasers instead.
It's just okay, so what was the purpose of all of that? There's a planet that produces this really interesting drug that was put into this candy and sent out as a joke, but it was accidentally intercepted, and they couldn't resist it.
And they have to find this planet to get the cure, because there's always got to be some time element to it. So maybe they're trying to deliver a vaccine to a planet. They accidentally pick up the space taffy, and now it's derailed them completely, and they have to go to the planet where the taffy comes from to find the cure so they can get this vaccine.
Eventually, these things will wear off just in time, but they don't have enough time. They have to have it wear off instantly. So they need to get to the planet quickly to get the cure so that they can solve this, so they can continue on with their mission. They land, and there's like a whole botany situation where they're learning about like the local plants, flora, and fauna.
But what if the cure all along is something they already had access to? That's got to be the stinger, is that they already had it. It was love.
It was love all along.
Maybe it's just a violent shock or like a slap to the face. So then you just have the entire crew slapping each other.
Yeah. maybe like a pain. It's a pain receptor thing. Like they have to have like a certain threshold of pain. It's not too much, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And they figured this out because people like fall down and hurt themselves or something and then they're fine.
Oh, or maybe Beverly gets so frustrated she turns around and slaps Picard, and in reaction he pulls his shirt down. He's like, I can do it.
Oh, finally.
Slap me again.
Watching everyone slap each other is interesting, but it would actually be some sort of a pulse. It would be like one of those pulses.
It'd be a wave.
Or everyone has to go to the engine room and like just in engineering and just inhale the steam that's always coming out of that room.
The warp core famous for being run on steam.
Yeah. Well, there's always like steam coming out of it.
There's always a coolant leak. Yeah.
A coolant. Yeah.
Very true.
So it's like a coolant leak. You have to inhale the coolant leak.
Oh, man.
Engineering is the only one that does it because there's always a fucking coolant leak somewhere.
Coolant leak. Geordie will just be rolling around everywhere.
He's
because
fine
that's
the
what he
whole
does.
time. He's like, I don't have this problem, guys. What's going on? It's because he's just constantly exposed.
Yes, somebody has an immunity from the beginning. That's always the key. And when they test his blood, it's like, wow, you have a lot of coolant in your blood.
You were like 80% coolant.
Great for this occasion, but you need medical help for the rest of your life.
And there's our episode.
There we go. Captain's Pod, Stardate 1272022.7. You're just there shaking your head and laughing. It's not going to work.
I'm sorry. Go on, Captain.
Captain's Pod, Stardate 1272022.7. Hello and welcome aboard the
It's 0.7 every time, Captain. Why? Why is it 0.7 every time?
Hang on, I preempted it. There we go. Okay. Captain's Pod, Stardate 1272022.6. Hello and welcome aboard the Starship.
Wait. Why is it 0.7 multiple times and now it's 0.6?
Because I was actually incorrect with my 0.7.
Oh, shit. The mystery continues. What is the algorithm? Sorry, go ahead.
Special prize for the Stardate guessing.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, okay, so we're gonna go the entire time on the outtakes and you're never gonna talk about me, Babs? What do I do? I'm married to you no more?